Hey folks, welcome back to RPGrandPa's Tabletop channel on YouTube. And today I want to talk about two different settings and how they relate with one another, how they compare with each other, and how many similarities they have with one another. I want to talk about Dragonlance and how it shares a close tie or a bond with Middle Earth. For me, it's basically the only campaign setting that is on this level of epicness. I guess that's how you could say it, epicness, because of the heroic story of both settings. Joe Manganiello said that Dragonlance, for him, he said Dragonlance was like the Star Wars of Dungeons and Dragons, the classic original trilogy Star Wars. And while I can understand and relate with that, for me, it's more middle. It's like Middle Earth. Dragonlance to me is the Dungeons and Dragons version of Middle Earth. There's just so many similarities between the two settings that I don't know. I don't know what it is about Dragonlance that has me so fascinated and in love with the setting, the story, the heroes, everything. I on Audible. Audible has new versions of the audiobooks for Chronicles, Legends, and the Lost Chronicles. I got all nine of them, and they're incredible. I highly encourage if you've never heard this version of the audiobooks, I highly encourage you to go check them out. I mean, the originals that were done like 40 years ago or whatever were so bland and monotoned. I mean, it was torture. So, first off, I want to talk about the core similarities of both settings. Both settings follow a diverse fellowship or party of heroes, and they're on an epic journey to save the world from overwhelming enemy. They're almost identical on that scale. A lot the classic archetypes. Each world features the standard humanoid or non-human races like elves, half elves, dwarves, and then of course humans. They have like the wizard mentors. Dragonlance has Fizban, and then you have Gandalf in Middle Earth. Neither are actually human; they're immortal. One is a god, and one is a I don't know what you would. I don't know what there's a Valar. I think that's what they're called. The five wizards of Middle Earth. But I mean, they're still basically the same thing. You have the epic versus the good versus evil struggle. Both settings center on a clear moral struggle between ultimate good and ultimate evil, often presented by like powerful deities or dark lords, like Sauron. And I forget what I keep thinking of Valor. Well, somebody can look that up and tell me in the comments down below. Both settings focus on legendary, powerful artifacts. Um, like for Middle Earth, it's the Ring of Power, and then the Dragonlances in the world of Kryn. Both settings have an ancient history for centuries. Dragonlance is basically shaped on the from based off the Cataclysm, where Istar and the King Priest tried to tell the gods what to do, and the gods sent down multiple warnings, and the King Priest was like, "F you, dude," and so they threw a mountain on him and killed him, and just destroyed the whole city. So after that, it was the Age of Despair, where the gods left Kryn, and for what 350 years, give or take, and so it was kind of like a post-apocalyptic era or age. And then then the Great War came, and the gods slowly started to come back, and I mean it's such an epic scale of a story. that just, in my opinion, it rivals the Middle Earth story. Um, parallels. Um, the heroes of the Lance in the Chronicles novels closely mirror the Middle Earth Fellowship of the Ring. Um, I mean, you got both of them's got the Ranger, Tanis and Aragorn. You have the Noble Knight, which is Sturm, and I guess you could go. Uh, Boromir was from Gondor, and I don't know how you would classify him, but yeah. And then you have both of them. You have Flint Fire Forge and Flint. I mean, not Flint, but Gimli. Um, so I mean, they have the diverse races in their fellowship or their group, and they're just very similar with each other. Then you have the small heroes like hobbits and Kinder. Dragonlance's the Kinder being Dragonlance's version of the halfling. And then Middle Earth's version of halflings being the hobbits. Um, there's like I said, there's a million different minor things that are just interconnected between these two settings. That and I'm a big fan of both. I love Middle Earth and I love the world of Kryn. Now you do have some differences. Dragonlance borrows. I mean, it's based off of Dungeons and Dragons, so there's a lot of differences in this setting compared to Middle Earth because it focuses more on the gods, and it's I think it focuses more on dragons. Even though dragons exist in Middle Earth, they're not really a hard focus, but they are in Dragonlance. Um, I can relate more with Dragonlance because of the D&D element of it. Um, Middle Earth was based on the foundation of constructed languages and mythology, while Dragonlance was born from actual uh, Dungeons and Dragons gameplay and based off of the rules and such of classic Dungeons and Dragons of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. Um, so there's a difference between the two with that aspect. Um, Monsters. Now, to distance themselves from Tolkien, Dragonlance creators Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, they intentionally excluded orcs and they kind of replaced them with draconians, that were creatures born from corrupted good dragon eggs. Not having an underdark is another thing that differentiates itself from other D&D settings and Middle Earth. You know, um, elves in Middle Earth. Elves in Middle Earth are immortal, whereas in Dragonlance, I think the actual books for Dragonlance says 1,000 years, but I've always played elves where they live 2,000 years. I think that was where it come from. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, where they live 2,000 years, and then dwarves, both settings live like several hundred, 400, 500, 600 years. Um, so they're in Middle Earth, elves are immortal, whereas in Dragonlance they're not. But I mean, 2,000 years, you might as well be immortal. Um, for Dragonlance, you have, I mean, which both settings, the Fellowship of the Ring and the Heroes of the Lance are both very close bonded group of friends and companions. And you get to know these individuals in this group on a personal level. Um, it's just how well the characters are written. Um, you get attached to them. You you get educated intimately with these characters in both settings from reading the books. Um, both settings, Dragonlance, they're fighting against an overwhelming enemy, same as Middle Earth. Different style, but they're still it's the same good versus evil trope where they're fighting an enemy that's just overwhelmingly superior, and they're just fighting against all odds. Like I said before, there's no Underdark, no orcs replaced by draconians. So that in itself sets it apart from other D&D settings. It's dominant both settings, Middle Earth and Dragonlance. Humans are the dominant species, where they try to make dwarves and elves and hobbits kinder. These other races that are not human are more mystical or more secluded and isolated. And I've always liked that. It's one thing I never liked about the world of Greyhawk is, elves are ever damn where. I like them to be focused in a region. Dwarves, I believe, you can have multiple dwarf strongholds or cities or fortresses in mountains, but have it to where they're just not a common thing that people see. So when you see a dwarf or you see an elf, you're like, oh my God, that's an elf. Or remember how in Fellowship of the Ring, where the hobbits just kind of freaked out when they seen Arwen when she rolled up, and that's an elf. Look, it's an elf. It's an elf, and that's the way I like to portray non-human species. They should be, they should be a rare thing. They're not just common where they're just walking around and it's normal. Oh, that's just elf. Okay. The story and setting for Krynn is based off of an epic war narrative. It's a central world spanning good versus evil war, orchestrated by the Dragon Queen Takhisis against Paladin. Is basically what it's Takhisis versus Paladin. What I like a lot about Dragonlance is the deities take an active role. Like Meshakal taking an active role in with Goldmoon to bring healing back to the forces, to the good people of Krynn. Seeing as how Takhisis brought it back for the evil forces. Then you have the unique lore for the different races, Kinder lore, Draconian lore, Tinker Gnomes. Plus, with the magic being tied to the three moons, Solinari, Lunitari, and blah, blah, blah. I forget the third. Solinari, Lunitari, and should have looked that up before I started this video. Anyway, there's three moons: red, black. The black is for and the moons are. You have a normal moon, a white moon, a black moon, and a red moon. The white moon is for the good aligned wizards. Black moon is for the dark robes, and then red is for neutral. And magic, depending on and magic is really done hardcore in Dragonlance. When you have to join one of the three orders, or you're classified as a renegade. And if you get too powerful as a renegade, the Conclave of Wizards will send out wizards to hunt your ass down and kill you. It's very magic focused. And you, as say you're playing a red robe neutral mage or a wizard. When you cast your magic, you get bonuses or penalties depending on which moon is up. There, sometimes all three are up. Most of the time it's just one of the three moons is up, and you'll get bonuses or penalties or no penalty or whatever. I really like the way magic is done and how wizards are done in Dragonlance. And the history, like I had talked about before, the cataclysm, too big to get into on this video, but the cataclysm, after the cataclysm happened, you had 350 years that was called the Age of Despair, and there was no gods, no healing, and then you have to look at it, for 350 years there was really no magic. What magic existed in the world at the time of the cataclysm over a period of time just disappeared and faded. or was lost in, deep dark dungeons and whatever. So it's like when you're starting out, and most campaigns start out 351 AC, and you go into a tomb or a dungeon or a crypt or whatever, you're not going to find potions of healing and such as common as you would in a normal campaign setting, because they just don't exist anymore. And as the gods return, magic returns to Kryn. So I mean, it's a really cool concept how they have it all tied together like that. Um, Let me see the characters. The characters are very relatable. They're focused on the core cast of heroes, and you really get to know them. Like I said before, you get to know them on a personal level, because in Dragonlance and in Middle Earth, the backstories and the personality traits and everything, you get to see all this stuff brought out and played out on a personal level, and you get attached to these characters on a personal level. It's the same way with Dragonlance. You have complex villains and anti-heroes. The Dragon High Lords, Takhisis as the evil god that's just shadowing over everything. The Dragon High Lords, the Draconians, and you have the anti-heroes, people like Raceland. Raceland wasn't really good or evil. He was power hungry, and he was obsessed with becoming more powerful. But in the end, he turned good to save his brother. So you have really complex alignments with people like Raceland, and how he was tied to Fistandanelis, where you get a big story on that in the Legends trilogy. You have strong female characters. Like a lot of people talk about, including myself, I hate a girl power movie, or I hate a girl power series, or anything like that. I don't mind having female leads, or a hard focus on female characters, but they don't overpower the story. It's kind of spread evenly amongst all the characters. But I mean, you got characters like Kitiara, Goldmoon, Lorana, Tika, and you fall in love with all of them. I mean, it's just, you get to know them on a personal level. There was, with the story, and Tanis being torn between Lorana and Kitiara, and in the end he ended up being with Lorana. It was just that whole love triangle. It was fun to read. The gameplay and experience of Dragonlance, the narrative focus, it's like originated in 14, I believe, DL1 through DL14. They turned the Chronicle novels into a long series of modules, and it kind of gives you it fleshes it out in a deeper way. If you ever play out if you have enough people to play all the characters, which I have never had that many. I can just imagine that would be a great time of playing. And last but not least, I believe the cinematic feel of Dragonlance really is side by side with that cinematic feel of Middle Earth. It's like grand sweeping battles and quests that feel like epic films. I still can't believe they didn't make a real movie out of Dragonlance, the Chronicles. I don't know. They made that shitty ass cartoon, and it didn't that didn't fly too well with me, and a lot of people. But I think I've talked enough about the comparison between Dragonlance and Middle Earth, and maybe I do another video down the road, or maybe my next video I want to talk about the campaign that I'm working on in Dragonlance. That the whole story that I've got written up, and it's pretty linear, but I mean, there's a certain point that I can't really talk about because I don't want any future players seeing it. But there's a certain point around level 6 to where I just lean back and turn it into a sandbox. The first 5 or 6 levels, I think, is pretty linear. There's a story there that builds up to where then I can turn away, turn loose of the reins and let it turn into a sandbox and let it play itself out through the players. But my campaign that I'm working on in Dragonlance, it parallels the Chronicles novels, where it's kind of like the heroes of the Lance may not have succeeded in helping defeat the dragon armies without this campaign not following itself to the end, to where the big epic campaign and adventure that my group of characters that I'll be running or DMing for, they have to complete their quest in order for, because if even if whatever the stuff that the heroes of the Lance did wouldn't have mattered if they would have failed in this quest. It's pretty cool. I've been working on it for about a year, just kind of building the story and putting it all together and such. So I may cover that in a future video. But anyway, enough for me dreaming and trying to gloss up Dragonlance. It's Dragonlance. I grew up in the world of Greyhawk, but I mean, if I had to pick one campaign setting that I truly love, it's got to be Dragonlance. There's things in it that I wish were in it, or things that are not in it that I wish were in it. But I guess if you put those things in there, then it wouldn't make that setting unique. And it has enough things in Dragonlance that separates it from all other campaign settings. And in my opinion, when Dragonlance was brand new and just first introduced, Dragonlance is what catapulted Dungeons and Dragons to where it is today. I mean, Dragonlance is just huge. And I hate to see that, which, don't get me wrong, Shadow of the Dragon Cream Shadow of the Dragon Queen was a complete bomb. It didn't feel like Dragonlance. It felt, which it's 5th edition, and I don't play 5th edition, but I did read it. It didn't feel like a Dragonlance campaign. It didn't have that epic cinematic feel. It didn't have anything that made Dragonlance special in that adventure or campaign, whatever you want to call it. To me, it felt like a generic adventure book. Yeah, it did. I mean, it's like they took a regular adventure book and tried to reskin it with elements of Dragonlance, and it just didn't work. People that didn't grow up in the classic age of Dragonlance, they loved it. Oh my God, it's Dragonlance. Oh, no, it's not. If you didn't grow up in the 1st edition era with Dragonlance, then you don't know. There's no way for you to know unless you play 1st edition Dragonlance and really understand what makes Dragonlance special. So, tell me what your thoughts are on Dragonlance. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it too linear, too railroady for you? Let me hear your thoughts on it, and I will reply. I always reply to my comments. I want to thank everybody that's recently came to the channel. Been getting a bunch of new subs. Thank you very much. Means a lot. I do appreciate all my subs. I do. I want to eventually, I still want to start streaming again. I just ain't got the nuts big enough to do it yet. That's going to be a big jump for me. But, and it's hard to hold on to a schedule where people can say, okay, it's Friday. He's coming out with a new stream. He's streaming tonight or whatever. It's coming. I promise. It's coming. Because I really want to start interacting with my subscribers and have like open mic and stuff where people can pop in ahead of time and I can bring in a couple of guests or something. So, I mean, I've got plans. We just hadn't reached it yet. That's it for me. thank you very much for watching. It means a lot. It's just my little corner of the internet where I talk about nerd stuff and Dungeons and Dragons, and uh, I hope you guys enjoyed it. So we'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.